Now let's talk about China. Uh, this from just before the new year, from Newsweek on December 30th. China demands U.S. end hostile military operations near its borders. This somewhat reflects one of the demands that Putin made to the United States in, his security proposal, which was to end the high level war games in Eastern Europe, and this seems to be China essentially asking for the equivalent. In the United States, these war games are almost never talked about, and if they are, they're only talked about by some journalist who gets a special deployment on the U.S. aircraft carrier, and what they're there to do isn't to in any way report on what the U.S. forces are training for, really. It's mainly about, hey, cool, look at this new technology they have. Planes taking off on an aircraft carrier deck. This is the F-35. This is the F-18. These are the new lifts they have. This is, a nuclear powered vessel. And then, maybe there's a little bit of, we got to do this to check China in the region. And they'll ask a few troops and they'll talk about checking China and making sure that the trade lanes stay open. Or, if it's in Russia, they're countering the Russian aggression. But there's never any actual concern about like how much these things cost, if they're really necessary, what strategically does the U.S. gain from this? Does it actually create more problems for the U.S.? Because just like if Mexico was carrying out joint military drills with Russia in northern Mexico, and China was carrying out military drills, with an entire aircraft carrier strike force. We're talking about an aircraft carrier and 5 guided missile destroyers and several other frigates and support ships and everything like that. If China was doing that in the Gulf of Mexico, we would absolutely lose our mind, see that as a hostile action, and then look to build up militarily to make sure that these war games can never turn into an attack on the United States. And that's exactly how China and Russia react to the U.S. War games. And so we should really, try to tone them down at the very least. They don't have to be right off of Russia's coast, or they happen in the Black Sea, so off of Russia's coast there, but they don't have to be right off of China's coast in the Sea of Japan, the South China Sea, the Taiwan Strait, all these other the Sea of Korea and things like that. And that probably could ratchet down the tension level of these games quite a bit. But again, I don't think that's the point. I think these war games are meant to, or at least the people who recommend, like the Rand corporations and everything, who are suggesting we need to play these war games and everything like that. And for the military, I'm sure it's good for their budgets, making sure that they get all the fancy new equipment, they get to try it out and everything like that. But these war games really create a need for more war games based on the logic of the war games themselves. And if we cut them out, we could probably save a hell of a lot of money and really reduce tensions with a lot of countries, not just Russia and China, but also like Iran. The U.S., as far as I know, didn't respond to this proposal directly, but they did carry out the Sea Dragon 22 war games with Australia, Canada, India, Japan, and the U.S. being Korea, so being a 6-nation war games, and these begun on January 5th. And so I actually think I should correct myself. That proposal was made from China to the United States during a meeting between, I think, people of the Indo-Pacific, the U.S. Pacific Command there, and then equivalent Chinese military ranking official or something. And so that I actually talked about those on the show in mid-December, and then it was reported towards the end of December that proposal had been passed along. And then again, a week after it comes public, the U.S. carries out these war games. They say that these war games are mainly focused on anti-submarine warfare, 270 hours of in-flight training, all kinds of other, crazy technology. I'm sure a lot of spending going on here, and obviously something that's going to upset China, cause China to, look for more military options, build new military technology, and then the United States is going to say, oh my God, China's building up militarily, now we need to as well. Australia and Japan have signed a new defense and security cooperation treaty, and this seems to be quite significant. The agreement was signed, I think, between the defense ministers, although the prime ministers of the two countries didn't meet. There's some good analysis on this by Shireng Shidora, and that he is writing at the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. And actually, I didn't get a chance to listen to it before I did the show, but Kelly Vallejos and Dan Larison have him on to talk about this for the first episode of their show in 2022. I think it's Crashing the War Party is the name of their new show. I'm sorry, Kelly, Dan, you changed the name of your show and I forgot. I just subscribe and, get the feed, but it's an absolutely fantastic show and a must read listen to if you follow U.S. foreign policy. But in this article, Shireng makes the argument that the signing of the Reciprocal Access Agreement between Japan and Australia today marks another step forward in weaving together of an China containment coalition in the Asia Pacific. The agreement allows the militaries of both countries to develop deep access into each other's air bases, ports, logistics, and infrastructure facilities. It will thus make it easier for troops from both countries to train, exercise, and operate together in any future war with China. The latest pact is a part of a wider arc of informal and formal security arrangements known as multilaterals that the United States has led or backed in Asia. Australia is emerging as the most reliable U.S. partner in almost all these arrangements, with membership in the Quad, that's the U.S., Japan, Australia, India, AUKUS, that's Australia, UK, US, and the Trilateral Security Dialogue, and I think they call that the Trident, and that's the US, Australia, and Japan. Australia seems eager to take on a role as Washington's most consequential subordinate to stop China's rise, and he talks about the possibility of then extending AUKUS to include Japan or something like that, as Australia pulls more of these countries in to the security dialogues. And, they're not just the U.S. and Australia. There's also Canada and Australia. There's also now Japan and Australia. And then there's Australia, India, Japan, Japan and India and all these different arrangements and everything. But Australia, as he is pointing out, is a key in all of them. So that's something important to keep your eye on if there is an Japan inclusion into AUKUS. Taiwan is ready for deeper ties with the United States. This by Dave DeCamp on December 29th, right at the end of the year. Taiwan ready for deeper military ties with the U.S. after Biden signs the NDAA. This was basically Taiwan's response to the NDAA, that they were very happy about it. Remember that the Taiwanese government that's currently in control is very pro-independence, and so that the fact that they're voicing support for the NDAA makes me suspect that they're very happy with it because they believe it'll help advance, their independence and separation from China, U.S. tensions with China remaining high in that case. The U.S. has also signed a new pact with Japan to launch, and it's a new research and development agreement. So the United States and Japan will sign a new research agreement and development agreement to make it easier to collaborate on countering new defense threats. And, that's basically just China, but they highlighted including hypersonics and space-based capabilities. And, those are the two big concerns that they're making now. The deep state that we have to worry about are hypersonics and space. Last story on China here, and that is Japan is planning to increase its Coast Guard by 10 ships to carry out more patrols over the Senkaku Islands. These are islands about 400 kilometers from Japan, and also claimed by Taiwan, which is much closer, 170 kilometers away, and then also China, which is 330 kilometers away. And the U.S. has said that its mutual defense treaty with Japan extends to the Senkaku Islands, and this is really about, I think, territorial claims like water claims, fishing claims, and natural gas and rights like to drilling and things like that in the region. They think there's natural gas there. And so this is pretty concerning that Japan is going to be carrying out more patrols there, because that's likely going to increase conflict with China there, and the U.S. has signed on to defend Japan over those islands if they create a conflict with China.